wind energy. It has been made use of for as long as we can remember. A large part of the Netherlands actually owes its existence to wind energy. Without the power of windmills, the Dutch engineer Leegwater would not have been able to reclaim the polders. Wind is a clean, abundant and renewable source of energy. During the last 15 years, the number of wind turbines in Europe has increased dramatically. But it takes a lot of work before a wind turbine actually provides us with energy. Anyone concerned with wind turbine transport automatically thinks of Notenboom. The Dutch trailer manufacturer is the designated supplier to the world's largest turbine manufacturer, Vestas. This Danish firm has grown into a multinational company with branches worldwide. Vestas builds more than 2,000 wind turbines every year. On their factory site in Ringkøbing in Denmark, transport vehicles from all over Europe are coming and going all day long. Most of the wind turbines that are built here are transported to their destinations by road. These destinations can be anywhere in Europe. The tower sections, for instance, are going to a project in the Dutch Flevopolder. Wind turbine transport is a job for experts. These days, most turbines are at least 90 to 120 meters tall. Add to this the length of the rotor blades, which can be over 60 meters, and it is clear that this giant cannot be moved in one piece. But even if the turbine is transported in sections, you are left with some pretty impressive dimensions. The tower sections, for instance, can be up to 30 meters long. The diameter of the tower sections increases with the length of the tower. So turbine transport is an often tricky job, requiring specialist expertise. The Dutch trailer manufacturer Notenboom was quick to spot the challenge transport operators were faced with, and one of the first companies in Europe to develop special transport solutions for wind turbines. By now, Notenboom has a wide range of trailers that are all tailored to one or more specific applications. Where one trailer may be designed to carry wide and heavy loads, another may be ideally suited to handle length and height. Loading the various components is a painstaking task, and in Denmark they take their time over it. The size and weight of the tower sections make them a real challenge for the driver and loadmaster. The sections must not only be secured properly, the weight distribution must also be spot on. If the center of gravity is too far to the left or right, the combination tends to become unstable, and the driver runs the risk of tipping over whenever he negotiates a bend. Therefore, they take their time. After all, it is better to spend a few more minutes double-checking than to end up in the ditch, load and all. The vehicle combination will not be allowed to leave the Vestas site in Ringkøbing before the load has been properly secured and thoroughly checked. The long journey from Denmark to the Netherlands has begun. En route, passing through the north of Germany, we get a good view of the size of the sections that are being carried. This kind of abnormal transport calls for special applications. For instance, not only must the trailers be strong and maneuverable, above all they must be stable, at high speeds too. Notenboom has a number of perfect, tailor-made solutions for this. For instance, because the length of the tower sections differs from model to model, Notenboom has developed a semi-low loader that can be extended to a length of over 40 meters. With an extendable floor, it is extremely straightforward to adjust the length of the vehicle to accommodate the load that is to be carried. While the column of vehicles makes its way through Germany towards the Netherlands, the foundations for the wind turbine are being laid in the Flevopolder. A total of 17 turbines are planned near Biddinghausen. By the way, this is not the project of a large power company, but a local private business enterprise.
Een van de buren hier die had dus al een windturbine, wou die gaan vergroten of eventueel gaan vernieuwen. Ging dan met dat plan naar de gemeente toe, naar de provincie toe. En daar werd al snel duidelijk dat die gingen kiezen voor lijnopstelling in Flevoland. Dat betekent dus een aantal molens op gelijke afstanden van elkaar, 6, 7 of 8 molens. En daarop is hij met de buren gaan praten en zijn we tot het initiatief gekomen. Er doen 12 mensen aan het park mee. En daarna is er ook één portie zeg maar, van het park vergeven aan een van de mensen die ook mee organiseert. Het windpark gaat energie opleveren voor 25.000 huishoudens, dus een stad ongeveer zo groot als Lelystad. Flevoland is best een goede locatie voor windmolens. Het is natuurlijk hier vlak, heel weinig begroeiing en het waait hier natuurlijk altijd.
The use of wind energy in Europe has really taken off over the last 15 years. In the Netherlands alone, the total capacity has increased by 600%. While in 1995, capacity hovered around 200 megawatt hours, by 2005 this had soared to 1200 megawatt. This increase is not just due to the fact that there are more wind turbines being installed, it's also because the turbines themselves are getting bigger all the time. The latest generation are over 120 meters tall, and the rotor blades have a span of around 100 meters. This means the foundations have to be perfect, because even the smallest flaw could have catastrophic consequences. After the concrete has been poured and has set, this is the result. A base firmly embedded in the Dutch clay, ready to receive the tower. It's not just in Northern Europe that wind power has rocketed during the last 15 years. In the south too, more and more wind farms are springing up. Here, for example, in the Serra dos Candeeiros in Portugal. While the first trailers with the tower sections are on their way to the construction site, the most expensive part of the turbine, the nacelle, is being transported from the Portuguese port of Aveiro. For the transport of this 3 megawatt nacelle, the Danish transport operator used the Notenboom Mega Windmill Transporter, a modular trailer that, as the name indicates, was specially designed for the transport of turbine parts. The Mega Windmill Transporter was developed at Vestas' request. The Danish wind turbine manufacturer was faced with a dilemma in the second half of the 1990s. The increasing size of the wind turbines meant that it was becoming impossible to transport them by road. Towards the end of the 90s, the sections had become so big that to stay within the permitted transport height of 4 meters and 34 centimeters, there was only 46 centimeters of ground clearance to spare. Notenboom accepted the challenge to find a tailor-made solution for Vestas. It soon became clear that adapting the existing low loaders and semi-low loaders was no longer an option. This is when the Notenboom engineers left the familiar ground of trailer building and came up with 3 new concepts. The most spectacular of those concepts is undoubtedly the Mega Windmill Transporter, with which Notenboom sets a new standard in special transport. The Mega Windmill Transporter is a trailer where the load is placed in between the trailer modules rather than on them. Therefore, the load actually becomes part of the chassis. And because a fixed load floor is no longer required, the trailer can carry a taller load. The Notenboom Mega Windmill Transporter consists of 2 hydraulically adjustable lift adapters. Notenboom has developed the adapters in such a way that they can be used universally by means of turntables on all sorts of vehicle types. In this case, one of them is mounted on a 3-axle Jeep dolly and the second one on a 5-axle dolly with hydraulic steering, made by the German trailer manufacturer Schoeller, an alliance partner of Notenboom. The Notenboom Mega Windmill Transporter is remarkable because of its simplicity and the fact that it is extremely easy to operate. The driver uncouples both sections when he arrives at the factory site. The rear section is pushed towards the load by the tractor, and attached to the load by means of the hydraulic lift arms. Because the lift adapters are adjustable in length, the system can be used worldwide for all kinds of loads and on various trailer types. The self-steering dolly of the mega windmill transporter has its own generator and can therefore be controlled independently from the tractor. When the nacelle is loaded or unloaded, the hydraulic suspension will first be completely lowered by the driver. A simple push of a button on the remote control is now sufficient to adjust the 3 lift arms one by one. Time-consuming procedures, such as using bolts and the like, are no longer necessary. The hydraulic clamps secure the load firmly. What's more, the mega windmill transporter has an extremely low deadweight. The load capacity is also pretty impressive. The trailer can easily carry a 100-ton load. This nacelle, weighing 60 tons, is therefore absolutely no problem for the Notabome trailer. For the transport of the smaller 2 megawatt nacelles, Notabome went one step further. For this type of nacelle, they have developed a modular low-loader chassis with a load floor that can be used as a construction platform for the nacelle. The load floor is uncoupled when empty and goes straight into the factory. The nacelle is then assembled on that load floor. As soon as the production process is finished, the floor and nacelle can be coupled to the transport combination, which is now ready to go. The nacelle, as is the case with the mega windmill transporter, can be loaded and unloaded independently. A crane is no longer required. Thanks to Notabome, loading and unloading now simply means sliding and clamping together. All that remains to be done after loading is connecting the hydraulic hoses and electricity cables. After the nacelle, it is the rotor blade's turn. Let's say the wings of the turbine. These rotor blades really are a challenge. Not only are they at least as long as a tower section, most of them now measure almost 50 meters, they are extremely fragile. Rotor blades are nowadays made of thermoset, fiberglass reinforced polyester. The blades are packed in fabric to prevent damage to their surfaces. One sizable scratch is sufficient to change the airflow around the blades, and 9 times out of 10 this will mean a reduction in output. Therefore, the blades must be loaded with the utmost care. Because of their construction and fragility, the blades are not suitable to be transported by a mega windmill transporter. An extendable Notabome flatbed trailer is used instead. These trailers can be extended in 2, 3 or 4 steps, up to a total length of 50 meters. Rotor blades work on the same principle as the wings of an aeroplane. They make use of the difference in the airflow along the flat and curved part of the blade. The shape of the rotor blades is exactly what makes their transportation more complicated. The blade is slightly twisted, with a flat surface on one side and a curved one on the other. This means extra support is needed in several places. This transport operator uses Euro pallets to support the rotor blades in the right places. A piece of soft cloth between the wood and blade surface, and the load is well protected. The use of pallets has another advantage. Should there be too much pressure on the wing, for instance when driving on rough roads, the pallets will break before the wing does. This means the risk of damage is minimal. Once the blade is in place, it is secured with straps and the trip to Portugal can begin. The trip from the port in Aveiro to the wind farm takes a few hours. The vehicle combinations have an escort all the way, both in the front and at the rear, for safety reasons and to warn other road users. Once the vehicles have arrived in Cerro dos Candeeiros, the escorts are no longer needed. But for the drivers, it all starts here. The wind farm is located deep in the mountains. The vehicles make their way up via a winding road. Here, it is plain to see that the Notabone trailers are extremely maneuverable. Due to the forced steering, the rear axles of the semi-low loader smartly follow the steering. This enables the trailers to get to places that otherwise would be inaccessible. Once they get to the top, the rotor blades are unloaded at once. Of course, this is done again with the utmost care. To damage the load at this moment would be extremely costly. Not only would a replacement blade have to come all the way from Denmark, the mobile cranes that are used to assemble the wind turbine would have to turn up again too. Therefore, the driver and crane operator take their time when unloading the blades. When the blade rests safely on the ground, it is once again clear how well designed the extendable trailers of Notabone are. After unloading, the driver retracts the trailer in one movement. This is handy for the transport operator. He could easily pick up a load for the return journey home, which means he doesn't have to travel empty. In the meantime, the tower sections are moved to the assembly site, one by one in the right order. The drivers have to reverse in, but they think nothing of it. Although with this amount of dust swirling around, the visibility in the mirrors is not all that good. In spite of this, every section ends up in the right place. On the rough terrain, the hydraulic suspension comes in handy. Every axle has its own hydraulic spring cylinder that smoothly adjusts to the surface. Moreover, the hydraulic suspension ensures that compensation between the axles is excellent. As far as safety is concerned, hydraulic suspension is ideal as the lateral stability is outstanding. Assembling a wind turbine is a time-consuming affair. The tower sections are driven up one by one to be unloaded. 2 cranes are used. First, the tower section is attached to the hoisting cable of the crane. Then it slowly takes to the skies. To unload the tower sections, the operators of the 2 cranes have to work together as a team. But the men do this sort of work day in, day out. They take the unloading of a few of these outsized steel tubes in their stride. Like puppeteers, they lift the 50-ton tower segment off the semi-low loader and stand it up. Positioning the segments is also done with the greatest care. This is just as well, because the tiniest steering error by the crane operator could have the direst consequences.